still with me on the desk is Nangula Uaandja, MD and Managing Partner at PWC Namibia. Nangula, is it true that you're one of the children that walked to Angola in 1988?
Yes.
Okay, so tell us about that experience, because you, of course, experienced a lot of disruption, political disruption over that period, and I think you changed schools around 16 times. I'm quite surprised that you're so well rooted academically.
Yes. No, yes, it was one of those exciting times. Like you've said, that there was a lot of disruptions. I attended various secondary schools because of the strike and people wanting to see the change of the regime at the time in Namibia. And yes, when I 1 year I decided when I was actually in grade standard 10 then, 1988, that I thought, okay, maybe it's time for me to make a move in the best interest of my education and in the best interest of Namibia. So,
and you were 4 years in Sierra Leone in exile.
Yes.
And your family was there as well?
No. I'm the only one of my family members that left.
Okay, and then you obviously moved back then to be with your family as well?
Yes, I did, yeah.
Tell us about some of the support structure that you did have and how you managed to have the opportunity to go to university. We're talking about government giving you a bursary. Tell us about that.
About my bursary, so when I left,
I mean, how you got the opportunity to actually go to university, because I'm sure it must have been a tough task.
Yes. No, when I left Namibia in 1988, I was lucky enough to receive a scholarship from the UNHCR at the time, and they sent us to Sierra Leone, where I did my secondary school. I was in Sierra Leone for about 4 years, and then when I was finishing my 4 years, by that time Namibia has gained independence in 1990, so I was to come back in 1992. So I wrote to the government that we were one of the students that were in exile in Sierra Leone, would like to see an opportunity to get bursary so that we can further our studies at university. I actually wrote the letter on behalf of my behalf and the behalf of my 7 colleagues who were studying with me at the time. And then we got a positive response. So when we came back to the country, we went to the Ministry of Education and asked if we can get the commitment. We got the commitment, and that's when we registered at the local University of Namibia.
And I'm sure that must have been a very exciting time for you. 4 years in Sierra Leone. Did you see your family during that period?
Yeah, I did not see my family for the whole time, but in 1990, I was privileged enough to get my father to buy me a ticket to come home and visit. And yes, we were in contact through letters the whole time that I was there.
I mean, this is a fascinating story, because you're literally on your own, to your own devices, and you still had the ambition to push through all the hardships. You even lived in a house, if I'm not mistaken, with around 20 people.
Yes. The type of person that my father was, we grew up in a very, very strict and loving home. My father was somebody who was very loving, but he was very, very strict. And we knew exactly what he expected and what he did not expect of us. So even though I was a teenager when I left, and yes, at that time, you could not tell your family that you were going, because everybody who left to go in exile never came back. So you were as good as dead. So when you are leaving, you cannot inform them that you are going. So I went, and when I reached I think the principles and the values with which my parents brought me up, that is the principle by which I lived. So every time I was in Sierra Leone, if I'm about to do something that is not acceptable, I would just see my father almost pointing a finger at me.
Like, tell me one of those things that you did not do because you saw your father in front of you.
Yeah, like maybe at the teenage of going to discourse at night and entertaining boys and not being serious with your studies. Yeah. I kind of see my father pointing. He said, like, pass up. And I thought, okay, I cannot afford that. Let me rather concentrate on my studies so I can face him one day when I go back home.
These hardships that you speak of is very endemic in terms of what we see on the African continent. Some people are able to transcend these hardships, other people are not. What kind of qualities would you say, and you talk about the values that you were brought up with, what kind of values are required to create leaders across the African continent, leaders such as yourself that will be able to work across various spectrums in the economy?
In my view, I think it all starts at home. So we need good homes and family background where people are growing up in environment, like I mentioned, where you are loved, but where you are also taught to be responsible and to know that the decision that you make in your life have got consequences, and you should be able to face those consequences. So the way you grow up is very important, and I believe that that is the way one gets shaped. And then as you grow up, you understand the responsibilities, the choices, the decisions, and the actions that one will need to take so that you move forward. So one needs guidance, and that guidance must be done at a very young age. I'm a Christian, and there is a very normal quote from the Bible, and it says, train up a child in the way he should go when he is young, and when that child grows up, they will not depart from it. I believe in that statement, and that's why I believe that having good homes, stable homes in Africa will help us to have young people and that will grow up into responsible adults.
Nangula, would you say that to become really successful within your career that you do just need to be a workaholic? I know that you work around 12 to 14 hours a day, and some would say that, you know, to really become successful and to make an impact on the economy in which you operate, one does need to put in the extra hours. I mean, what is your philosophy in this regard?
It probably depends on what is one's definition of a workaholic. What is important to me is I have a purpose in life. I'm here for a limited number of years, and I need to make a difference that I need to make. Some of the things are a means to an end. If I need to make a difference, and given the environment, there are some things that I have to do and put in an effort so that I'll get the result that I want to see. And therefore, I'm kind of a person who's got a lifestyle who says, whether it is my work, my family, my life, my relationship with God are all in a given environment, and I will try to allocate as much as I can do to those ones so that in the end it's not about how many hours I spend where, it's about I am satisfied and I love what I'm doing, I'm passionate about it, and that I believe that is who I am. It completes who I am.
Tell us about also, you know, the people with which you work, those that are just, you find very difficult to inspire and to work very hard. How do you deal with that very difficult and challenging scenario? Because again, accountability needs to be had, and of course, as a leader, you need to instill that kind of responsibility within the employees.
I've worked with a number of people. I probably have got one or two people in my life that I've worked with that I was not able to get along with. And that person will be like somebody who is not really hardworking, somebody who I believe, or sometimes I take it as being a lazy person. I cannot work with that person. The other one is a person who does not acknowledge their mistake and accept responsibility. It makes it very difficult for me to help that people or to take them to the next level. So if I'm working, what I tell people is, if we meet somebody that we have to employ, we have to look at the potential of that person. If the patient has got potential, whether they've got skills or not, I'm here to put in my everything to give them the opportunity that I can. But they must be able to make sure that in the end of the day, they are working hard, they are responsible for their own life, their own career development, and I'm here to help them, guide them, and give them access to opportunities.
And it's interesting, you mentioned whether people have skills or whether they don't have skills. What is the mixture of people that are actually interested to work in this space, and what kind of programs should be put in place to ensure that you do upskill people in a specific sector which most people are not really interested in at first glance? I'm sure you must be one of the very few.
The good thing with the way that it is structured, the way that the auditing profession is structured, it structures in the way that you do not have a choice but to train people. Because people that want to become chartered accountants, they must do 3 years of articles, which is a training. And that's what I've gone. There's a lot of people that have sacrificed their time and so on for me to get where I am, that have invested a lot in me. And therefore, I find it very easy for me to do the same kind of investment. Yes, one has to get a balance on saying, I need to get my work done, I have to be with my family, what do I do? And I always tell people, personally, one of the things that keep me in the profession is that passion that I'm with people, I'm training people, I'm passing over whatever I've learned. Yes, there might not be many people with that one, but I think we're doing relatively well, given the number of chartered accountants that the various organizations are producing.
There's so many things that are changing from an accounting perspective, rules and regulations. We know that the financial crisis has changed a lot of the ways that we operate, even businesses operate. You obviously have to keep a fair with all the new changes that come to the fore. How do you manage to do this and ensure that you get to doing all the day-to-day admin that is required? When you're in auditing profession, I think it is important and necessary that you are linked up with a firm
that is an international firm, that has got, you know, like state-of-the-art technology, and that has got a lot of capacity, so that you've got various people that are researching what are the changes, what is coming, and those people just help us put the materials together and send you something that is summarized and nice to read and say, this is your responsibility. Or maybe it's an e-learning that they put together and say, this will take you 1 to 4 hours. Please go and read it and complete whatever assessment might be there. So having that support, I think it's very, very necessary and relevant in the industry in which we operate.
It's a balancing act for you. You're actually walking on a tightrope, I would assume, especially given the fact that you have 3 young children,
yes.
3 young boys,
yes.
and a husband that you need to take care of.
Yes.
How exactly do you manage this process?
The first thing is I've got a husband who's very, very supportive. We grew up together, if I can put it that way. We got married in my first year of article, so he has seen me growing from an article clerk to a place where I am. And every time before I take the step, I will sit with him and say, this is now our decision, and I cannot do it without him. And we have to know that once we make this decision, there's an opportunity, for example, for me to become a managing partner. There will be consequences of taking up that opportunity. Are we willing to face that consequences? Yeah. Then we will sit as a couple, look at the pros, look at the cons, and then make a decision that we believe that, yes, it's in the best interest of our family and my career. And yes, I've got 3 boys, and they're quite understanding. So they sit there, and as long as they get their own share of my time, then they believe.
How much time do you get to spend with them daily?
Daily, probably between, of course, 1 to 2 hours. Yes, there will be time that I might not be able to see them because they go, like the 2 ones now, they go to school. So in the morning they're at school, and I make sure that I drop them at school myself. My husband picks them up, and I will try to come back home somewhere around about 6 so that I can check their homework, make sure that they've done what needs to be done.
So you audit them?
Yeah, something like that, yes. And then try to spend 30 minutes or so playing soccer with them. And yes, because school days, they have to go to bed early. Yeah. Then you have to take them to bed, and if I need to do work after that, then I continue with my work.
All right, Namibian Businesswoman of the Year 2011.
Yes.
Of course, this is your new title. I know this was one of the targets that you had put in place. Tell us about how you plan to leverage off this and to inspire more women down the line.
Yes. Actually, you know, like with the Namibian Businesswoman of the Year, I've got a partner back at the office who kind of said, Nangula, this is the year that you must now become Businesswoman of the Year. And I told her, you know what, this schedule is so full and there's a lot of things to do. And she said, no, you're now PWC property. So please, the decision of PWC is you will enter this competition. I said, okay, I will oblige. And then we went through the process. Yes, at first I must acknowledge that I did not understand the benefits that one will be able to get from it. But today, I think I believe I'm seeing the benefit, the access and the respect which I get in the business community, with the government, the opportunity for people to listen to my point of view, and for me, you know, to have more influence with whether it is young people and so on. I think that has really created that platform that I'm able to help and make a difference where I can.